Welcome, everyone. I am so pleased and grateful to have Katerina with us today for this session and to have you all. This is a great success for, when we usually deliver this type of webinars, we have, lots of registrations, but this one was amazingly, fantastically successful. So thank you for joining. So today we are going to dive deep into this session and hear more insights from Katerina about how you can design your life vision. So Katerina, thank you so much for being here. Before we are going to hand it over to Katerina, I will just take a few seconds just to give you some housekeeping rules about this webinar and just to introduce the team. I am Felicia Solomon, and when I'm not conducting this type of interesting sessions with great speakers, alumni, I am leading the alumni career development at INSEAD. And today I will partner with my best colleague, Diane Yelland, who is our operations angel for the session. So if you have a technical issue, Diane will be able to help you, and please send an email to her at wpcareers@insead.edu. Now, you will be your camera is off and you will be muted throughout the session, but you can share your questions in the Q&A, please. Now, I will monitor those questions and we will allow an average 15 minutes maybe for questions. Some of them will be addressed during the session and some at the end. So keep those questions coming in. I will monitor those and definitely interact with Katerina to make the session as insightful as possible. Now, the session is recorded also, and you will receive that in an email with a follow-up that you will receive from us after the session. And now I will introduce to you Katerina. For those who don't know Katerina, she is an executive coach and founder of LeaderPath, a leadership company. She has coached hundreds of business leaders and on how to define their life and their career vision. She has also developed VisioPath, a 2-week live group program, and help her clients clarify what they want in their life and also in their careers. Katerina has worked as a global leader in Google, and there she was also a 5-star rated internal coach. Her work has been featured in Forbes, Fast Company, and Thrive Global, and her internationally best-selling book, How to Hold Successful Meetings, is part of the Penguin Expert series. We are proud to have Katerina as as a member of our alumni family, and she graduated from her MBA in 2009, class of July, and she also holds a master's in executive coaching from Holt Ashridge Business School. Thank you, Katerina, for being here. So grateful from with all that gratitude from the team. And with that said, I'm going to hand it over to you. Welcome and enjoy the session, everyone.
Thank you, Felicia. I feel so good being here. I always, when I'm in the INSEAD events, I feel this is my crowd. I graduated in 2009, but I still feel this is our tribe, this is our family. So I'm grateful for this opportunity. The purpose of today's session is, first, I want to demonstrate how important it is and how useful it is to have a successful life vision. And the second purpose of today is I want to share with you 4 key principles that will allow you to create a life vision in a simpler way. I want to share some of the traps, some of the mistakes we make when it comes to defining a life vision. And with that, I'd love to get a sense from the room. Where are we? We have 234 people in the room. How clear is your vision right now? This session is for you, whether you have a very clear vision, you know where you want to be in a few years' time, personally, professionally, you have a clear picture. And this session is for you also if you have no idea. So we will launch a poll, Diane will launch a poll. how clear is your vision? Let's see, this big INSEAD family, how are we doing? Extremely clear, I'm working on it, I haven't even thought about it. What is that? I'm not familiar with the concept. Let's see. Take a minute and let's get a pulse from the room. Also, as we're waiting for this, I do have prepared an exclusive gift for this community. I'll share now as I'm waiting. It's a 5-minute visualization about your ILDL day, and we'll send the link in the email afterwards. And I took it from my Vision Path program, and I exclusively give it to every participant here. So you'll receive that as well. Do we have the result? All right, 79% I'm working on it. We have a 7% extremely clear. I haven't even thought about it at 12%. And what is that? I'm not familiar with the concept, 3%. So that is what I expected. From all the work I have done, most people were working on it. And that's a good thing, actually, because vision is an ever-evolving concept. You never do the life vision and then it stays in stone. We revisit it, we learn information, we are more aware of what we want, we change as well. And so vision is something you will always be working on, and that's a good thing. So let me start going to the first principle, and I want to share with you, and I will use a lot of storytelling today to share those principles to help them land. How I became so interested in life vision. And I'll go back to 2009 when I had graduated from my MBA. And I know you will resonate, this group more than any other group. Every one of us, I went into this MBA with this great ambition and I thought I will graduate with many offers. And then it was 2009 and there was the financial crisis. And I didn't graduate with any offers. I graduated and I had to go back to Greece. I had an international career before the MBA and I was applying for jobs and it was nothing. I was hearing crickets. I was 8 hours applying to jobs in 2009 because of the financial crisis, because I wanted to move to the UK. There was no response. And I don't know if you've ever been unemployed, especially after you've given all your savings and your parents' savings to INSEAD for the MBA. I started getting more and more desperate about this. Like this fear crept in of what about my potential? What am I going to do? Will I have an opportunity? And my mother tells me this, that she came back at home and I was sleeping in her sofa, like in the apartment. I didn't even have my own room because I had left the country. She found me crying one day of feeling, what if I don't find a good job? What if it takes ages? And she told me, come for a weekend, come to a friend's house by the beach. You really need to take your mind off the things. And then when I went that weekend to the friend's house, she gave me a book to read. And the book was around visualization. And it was exactly what I needed to read at the time. And there was 2 or 3 insights I took from the book. The first one was, you need to be clear on what you want. And I knew I wanted to move to the UK. I knew I wanted to work in media in the UK. But I sat down and I asked myself a question. What do I really want? What could be the dream job? And it came to me that I wanted to work at Google. And you need to imagine in 2009, Google was the top employer in the world. They were receiving 2 million CVs a year. I had INSEAD, thankfully. But other than that, my CV was not that impressive beforehand. Like nobody knew the company I worked before. It was called Circus Marketing Communications. But nonetheless, the second thing from the book, it was try to make your vision tangible. So I went into YouTube and I found the offices of Google in the UK and I started visualizing myself working in those offices. And then what happened is that happened. It's the truth. I am reluctant sharing this because it sounds like magic. But what happened is a couple of days later, I received a phone call. And I take the phone and they say, hello, we're calling from Google. I'm like, all right, yes. And they say, you remember you applied to a job weeks ago and we rejected you. I'm like, yes, I remember that. And your job had come up in this department and we think you could be a better fit. Would you be interested? And I'm freaking out, as you can imagine. I'm like, yes, I will be interested. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this thing works. There was another element from the book, and I know I saw it, the question, what was the book? The book was called The Secret. And I know it's a controversial book, but for me, it was really helpful at the time. We can agree on elements from the book or not. The second insight I got from that book is you need to behave like you've already gotten what you want, and you need to feel like you've already gotten what you want. So what I did is I stopped applying to anything else. That was because a lot of times we do that. We want something a lot, but then we do a plan B and a plan C and we distract ourselves. Like if I was preparing for more jobs, I wouldn't have time to prepare for the job I really wanted. The second thing I did, that's also I wouldn't have done, I told all my INSEAD friends that I was applying for Google. And I know a lot of times we don't do that because we don't want to tell people unless it's a done deal. By telling everyone, I was sending the signal, I'm going to get this. And I'm telling people, I'm raising the stakes. I told everyone I was applying and I was going to get a job at Google. And the third and most important, I started feeling excited. I managed the psychology from almost depressed and really desperate to I'm getting this job and I feel great about it. So I flew to the UK, feeling excited, even though I was sleeping in a couch of a friend, again, broke. And I went into those interviews with this attitude of, I'm here to meet my new colleagues and I'm here to check out my new offices. And that was what made the difference. And I know that because the director told me. He was a scary director, if I may say so. And he told me, everyone who comes in that interview, you remember, it's 2009, the crisis, unemployment is going up. They look at me like I'm a bear. You were the only person that came into those interviews and you feel, I can see you're very confident that you can do the job. And it was more, I had convinced myself I was getting the job. And then I received the offer. I joined Google in 2009 and I stayed there for 8 years. So why do I share this story? What is the key principle I want to share here? I'm going to share it with the card. So vision is a place you come from, not a place you're going. Let me say this again. Vision is a place you come from, not a place you're going. What does this mean? That means vision is a tool. You identify what you want, and then you need to embody what you want. Our thalamus, our brain, cannot tell the difference when you hold a mental image or when something is happening in reality. And we can see that even when we watch movies, we cry, we laugh. Our brain cannot tell this is not happening to us. We think it is. So if you hold a vision long enough, what happens is you create new connections in your brain. Your brain starts believing this is true. New connections are being created. Your body chemistry changes because you start getting excited. Oh, this is true. I'm having that job, or I have this relationship. I have this abundance of wealth. And your body chemistry changes, your hormones change. And then you become a different person. And the reality around you will change to accommodate the new you. And this is not the new advice. I remember throughout my business careers, they were saying, dress for the job you want, not for the job you have, or all this type of advice that you need to come from a vision rather than sacrifice the now for a potential future. Is more, how can I behave and feel? How do I want to feel when I have received the vision, gratitude, freedom, abundance? How can I feel this right now? And that's the secret to achieving your vision faster than you expected. Let me pause here with this first principle and see if we have any questions, Felicia.
I think everybody is very passionate in hearing you because they're not that active on the on the question side. But I think that that will come. Besides the name of the book, and everybody is grateful also because you are so open to share and great storytelling, and they're touched that you are sharing that personal story with the audience.
Thank you.
And they're saying, awesome story. Thank you. So, let me go.
It will be easier to see your question if you post them on the Q&A. I see people posting them on the chat.
Yeah. They want on the chat because we started with, so meditation to be, okay. So meditation to visualize goals, a kind of a beginning of a question. So we can use meditations to visualize goals.
Yes. So what happens is most of our thinking during the day is automated. And most of our thinking is around our past and our predictable future. I have those meetings. This is what I have to do. So if you really want to change your reality, you will need to get rid of all the thinking. Like most of the thinking we do keeps us in the past because we think what happened, we think what we already know. If you want to completely change your reality, it needs to, meditation will help disattach your brain with that thinking. And I do recommend I'm reading Joe Dispenza's book, Supernatural, right now, and it goes deeper on that. And I found it really, the way he communicates this concept of using meditation to disattach with your thinking. And then in terms of visualization, I use many tools, and one I'm sharing with you, which is a visualization guided. You will hear my voice guiding you. We use images, we use writing. I have people talking to each other, speaking, because some people can speak their vision. The more you can engage your senses to get in touch with your vision, the better it will be.
Okay, there's another one which is very interesting. Have you had a situation where you visualized something that didn't come true?
Yes. It's the third principle. Now I'm going to mistakes. Like the next three principles I'm going to share is mistakes that had happened and some mistakes I made too. So if you can hold on to the two principles from now. Let me share. Do we have any other questions before I move to the second principle?
There are questions around the imposter syndrome and how to overcome this imposter syndrome. But maybe if you're going further into the presentation, that will be addressed.
Yes. Let me write that down so I make sure I address it in the relevant.
It's on the top of the Q&A, so I will make sure that we will go through it.
Okay. So the second principle, the first one I found out from a book, and getting such a successful for me at the time job for me, like that's what I wanted. The second principle I learned in class. So in 2014, I am going to do a coaching course. I'm in maternity leave 5 years after I joined Google. And I said, I'm on maternity leave. Let me go and learn something. So I went to Howard Ashford's business school to study coaching. And that's where I continued and I got my master's. So there's this class that was called solution-focused coaching. And I'm super excited because I don't know if you have this as an MBA. My identity is I'm a problem solver. And I think this will resonate with this group. Like we INSEAD MBAs, we think, I'm a problem solver. I will go to the solution-focused coaching. This will be fantastic. And I got to this class and what they taught me was really counterintuitive to me. They said, when a client comes with a problem, a coaching client, you don't talk about the problem. And I'm like, what? What do you mean you don't talk about the problem? No, solution-focused coaching is you don't talk about the problem. You talk about the solution or exceptions to the problem. And that's a great insight. And you can use it in everything. When someone comes and says, I have trouble being a public speaker, I will ask them, I wouldn't go into how do you feel about this? I will go, tell me about an experience you had that you were a good public speaker, and then they will remember and we'll analyze that, the exception to the problem. And I do this with everything. Every problem. I'm not creative. Are you creative somewhere in your life? Yes, I actually need. And then we'll get into the needing and how does that feel and how can you need and be creative, and we'll expand it. And that's how we focus on the solution. So how is that relevant with the vision? Most people, the mistake they make is when they think about their future, they focus on what they don't want instead of what they want. They will come and they will tell me, I want to get rid of my mortgage, and I want to get rid of this extra weight I have, and I want to get rid of this bad boss I have, and I want actually to stop working at 55. I want to get rid of working entirely. And what's the problem with that? The problem is you're not giving a positive imagery to your brain to work with. You're putting all your energy and focus on the things you don't want. And they say where attention goes, energy flows, then you get stuck with the things you don't want. And we see that it's so obvious, right? This is the learning. Focus on what you want, not what you don't want. It's so obvious. But we do it again and again. And especially when we're trapped into complaint mode, when there's someone, a colleague, a boss, a client, that they're really annoying us, and they get so much energy. We're going to victim mode, and we're complaining about the time, all the things they should have done. And that gets us stuck because we're giving all our energy on something we don't want instead of focusing on what we want. So all of the things I mentioned before, flip them. How would it feel to not have a mortgage or be in debt or your student debt? Like, rather than even the words you use, how can you flip them in a positive? I want to have financial abundance. That's something that will get your subconscious excited and start broking the opportunities instead of, I want to get rid of my debt. Is that concept clear? Felicia, do you want to take some questions now? Or?
Yes, maybe. There are some questions which are very interesting, because there's a link in between, we are mostly, taught to be realistic and not kind of dream that big and have all this visualizations, which are great. So how do you bridge that? How you go from logical to maybe illogical and project those visions? How it seems that it's some difficulty around, going from what we have been taught to think and believing and visualizing something for ourselves.
Yes.
How do you do that?
I will talk a lot more around this, because that's the key barrier. That's we're putting the nail on the head there. That's the key barrier. We are afraid of actually getting in touch with what we want. Fear is the biggest obstacle when we think we don't know what we want. We do know deep down, but we're afraid of admitting to ourselves because maybe it's too big and we think we're not going to be able to get it. What I do, and I'll talk a lot more about this, is when we're doing the vision, we go into playful mode. I don't say we need to deal with our fear, because our fear is there to protect us. And we need to say, thank you, fear, but now I'm just playing. I'm just playing what if. I'm not going to put, like what I do when I work with my clients, I'm saying, I'm not going to push you to quit your job and become a yoga teacher. This is not what we're doing. Let's play with what if. What would be really exciting? And when we're doing the vision, I don't have those realistic limitations, because most of the time we don't even know what's realistic, really. We don't know what's possible. And I shared a lot of stories. I have so many stories from me and my clients. We don't know what's possible. So the vision should not be realistic, should be aspirational. But then when we go to strategy, because we have trained our brain to actually spot the opportunities and spot the information that's relevant to the vision, it becomes a lot of what we thought was impossible becomes possible. Because there's most of the information we don't register it, as you know, like 99% of the information around us, we would go crazy if we'd register everything, like all the noises and all the things we see. So our brain only registers information, thinks it's relevant for our survival. So the way we do it is we have the vision, and then we start spotting information that we wouldn't do otherwise. You know, when you buy a car and you see this car everywhere, or when you're pregnant and you see everywhere pregnant women, that's the way it works. So what we want is to train our brain. This is what I want. This is the vision. Then we start spotting a lot more new things that we hadn't spotted before, and what was impossible might become possible.
Great. Thank you for that. Is it like the visualization, the concept, is it a concept? It's active or passive in your view, Katerina?
So the way I do it in my program, we do a vision board. That's it. Google slide with photos. And I've had a vision board after Google. For Google, I use a video. So the more you can bring it to life, like I use the YouTube video, this were the offices I visualize myself. Now we do images. The more you bring it to life, the better. The more you engage your senses, the better. So I will have a vision board. I probably change it slightly every year, but mostly I will change it every 3 years. So I think there's something to be said about doing something that is tangible and we have it in our screensaver, so you can see it every day. I even use the password. Every year I've been using the password to log into my computer for what I wanted this year. So subconsciously, every day I was logging into my work computer. When I wanted a family, I was having a family. When I wanted a bestseller last year, my password was bestseller. So every year I'm training my subconscious, this is what I'm creating. Not every year, every day I'm putting on the password.
That's a great tip. I will use that one. Thank you, Katerina.
Yes. Let me move to the third principle, and then I will spend a lot of more time for questions, because this is the time it didn't work for me. And I'll share another story. So after my maternity leave, I went and did the training and coaching. I fell in love with coaching. I came back to work at Google and I continued. I wanted to do coaching hours because to get accredited, you needed 100 hours. We have any coaches in the group, but also I wanted to get promoted for second time. I had gotten one promotion and now I wanted to get my second promotion at Google. So I was trying to do both things, having also a newborn and promotion. I was like, I'm going to use my visualization. I'm good at this. So let me visualize me getting the promotion. So I used the visualization. Let me be very positive and happy energy with my colleagues and feel that I'm already promoted. And it went well. Like I had a new client. The client was positive. My boss was positive. She told me, she mentioned it to the committee. The committee was positive. I almost had it in the bag. And then I remember I was on a business trip in New York and I was jet lagged, and in typical INSEAD fashion, it was in business trip, like I had drank with the colleagues as well, so hungover too. And my boss in New York invites me in the room and she said, I have to tell you something, you didn't get the promotion. It was blocked in a higher meeting from someone. I think that if you ask me what was the most painful time in my career, I think that was it. I was away from home. Like I couldn't even, I was in New York. I couldn't even go home to my husband or I wanted my mom. I felt so hurt. It was so painful. And it took me years to realize the deeper thing of what I did wrong there. And the obvious is I was trying to do two things at the same time. I was trying to climb the ladder while also I was trying to move the ladder in a different way. I was trying to change careers into coaching and also get promoted. And I see that my clients do that all the time. They come to me and say, I want to change jobs, but they still work 15 hours a day on their current job. And I'm like, why are you working so hard since you want to change? And we're just so trapped into the ladder we're climbing. And that doesn't work if we're not clear. What is it the priority here? Is the priority for me to change careers, or it's my priority to get promoted and continue in the current path? It's like taking a step forward and then taking a step on the side and then taking steps in many directions and then thinking, why am I at the same space? Why am I not moving? But there was a deeper reason why it didn't work for me and why it was so painful as well. Like, I experienced this as a traumatic event that I didn't get promoted. And it took me years of self-reflection to identify what was wrong there. And what I found out was that the goal was ego-driven. It was not desire-driven. I didn't really want to get promoted. I wasn't excited about the idea. Like I was already doing the job. It wasn't something that would get me excited. It was more my ego wanted to get promoted. I thought I was owed a promotion. I wanted some validation, some recognition. My ego needed the promotion for validation. That's why it was so heartbreaking as well. Because, and you will see, I think that's a tip to how do I identify what's an ego-driven goal, what's a desire-driven goal? And I found that the ego-driven goals, when we don't get them, we feel devastated, we feel like a loser, we feel shame, we feel embarrassment. While a desire-driven goal, we're already good and full. It's desire-driven. It would be really fun to do this, but I'm okay without it too, because it's desire-driven, it's not need-driven. So here's the lesson. Focus on what you want, not what you think you need, especially what your ego needs. And this become more prevalent, especially with social media. A lot of ego-driven goals could be, for me, it was the promotion. For someone else, the promotion could be desire-driven. It could be, I really want to do that job. For me, it was just about checking the check mark at that time, right? It could be social media likes or social media follows, could be even ego-driven. Revenue, if you're a business owner, revenue or investment can be an ego-driven goal. Do you really want your business to be as big, or is more around other businesses are big and you want to hit that milestone to feel more secure and validated in your ego? So a lot of goals, awards can be ego-driven, a lot of the things. So what I want to invite you is to clean up the goals and focus on what brings joy, what brings desire, versus what you feel you need to be validated, because that doesn't work. And we know it doesn't work. Think about dating, right? Imagine you're dating someone, and see the difference, right? Someone who wants to date you because they feel they need validation or to show their friends that they can have the relationship, that's really a turn off. Versus someone who dates you, they're very happy on their own, but they desire you and they think it will be fun, and they want it. Versus the desperate one who needs you to feel worthy, versus someone who desires you. And we know that the first one is a turn off, the second is not a turn off. That's how it works with our vision as well. I know I went really deep with this, and I want to see if we have any questions about this.
Honestly, I personally loved it. So thank you for all these tips. We also have some questions around this area of validation. So how can one pre-validate a vision before taking the plunge? You know, like they give us a description of buy a hotel in Zanzibar for kite surfing versus continuing to live a good life safely with kids, etc. So
yes, we do. When we work on the vision, we develop options, because that's another principle. A lot of people make a mistake. They think, oh, there's only one right answer, and it's not. There's a research with Stanford University that you could have 7 different types of careers and you could be successful in all of them. So that's the first of our principle to relax, right? We could do different things and they could be okay. We could be happy and successful doing them. So we create some options and that we think we form a hypothesis, and then we test the hypothesis. The hypothesis is, I would enjoy having a hotel in a surfing hotel. That's your hypothesis. You're an MBA. You need to test your hypothesis. You're a scientist, right? Test the hypothesis. Talk with someone that has a hotel and see how their day-to-day is. You get more information. We had so many people, even classmates, they would test. You be like an entrepreneur here and test the hypothesis before you make the jump. For me, I left Google, which you know how much I appreciated that job, after 8 years. And it took me 3 years. From 2014, I fell in love with coaching, to 2018 that I left Google. It took me 3 years of validating this hypothesis. And it was building the skills I needed. And also I had 3 paying clients before I left, which was important psychologically for me to validate the hypothesis. People can pay me for coaching. I don't think I would have managed to leave. And it wasn't the money, obviously, like 3 clients. Mm-hmm. It wasn't substituting my income, but it was more psychologically, this could work. I've confirmed 3 different people paid with their wallet for this, so I could make it work.
Is there any toolkit which can be used to do what you have done in terms of getting, a life vision and how you implement it? I mean, this session is almost a toolkit, I would say.
Yes, and I do. Vision Path starts next week. Let me plug the program because it's a 2-week program, and it is a toolkit. Like every day we do exercises. So if you cannot join Vision Path, I would say take those principles that we will share today. What do you really want versus what do you don't want? What do you want versus what you think you need? And we have one more principle. Do we have one more principle? Yes. I'll share one more principles. I will say, and try to play with it. What is it that you really want? That's what I would advise.
Okay. And this, again, taking into consideration the context also, Katerina, which is not great in terms of, jobs, career, pandemic, everything coming. There's a question around, what are the best practices, to kind of create that vision for life in the current state of affairs, given all this context. And also, maybe someone who has like 20 years of work experience and stops maybe now in a moment of midlife kind of checkup, not to call it crisis. How do we do to create that vision after 20 years with all the experiences that we have?
So what I'm hearing from that question is fear. Like there's some fear of, what if everything I've built, can I give it away? It's not that I don't know what I want. I think I have people have hypothesis of what they want, but they're blocked by fear of, I've worked so hard to build what I've built. I have 20 years of experience, but I've coached people in their 60s, and that's the beauty. And people in their 20s to people in their 60s, and it's never too late to change. And actually the most successful person in my last program was a person that was 62, and he said, you know what, do I continue a few more years until I retire, or do I change careers? And he was one that had the biggest breakthroughs. And it was so helpful for the rest of the people, because they were saying, oh, I need to reach this until I'm 30, and I need to reach this milestone until I'm 40. And it was so liberating to see at any age we can make a change. But also, I like what Steve Jobs said about this topic, that you can only connect the dots looking backwards. And he said that he took a class at university about calligraphy, and then calligraphy helped him design the Mac and make it so successful. And I like this thinking. When I left Google to launch the coaching business, I was also afraid. I have worked so hard. I have an INSEAD MBA. I thought I will be the CEO, not the coach of the CEO. There was so much thinking, and that's why it took me years, by the way. Another thing I have to say, maybe a bigger change will take more time, and that's okay too. But then we have a lot of fears. But then what happened is, when I left, I connected the dots looking backwards. I couldn't have done it before I leave. When I left, I realized, oh, the fact that I had an INSEAD helped me become an INSEAD coach, for example. The fact that I was at Google helped me have all these tech clients. I connected the dots. Everything, your 20 years of experience will be so useful in your new whatever adventure you want to have. But usually we connect the dots looking backwards, not looking forwards.
Okay, there's a demand maybe for a repeat of, the difference in between the ego-driven and the desire-driven. What is the difference in those two situations?
Yes, I think desire-driven, the ego-driven, usually we feel we need it to feel okay, to feel validated, to feel worthy. And that's why it feels devastating when we don't get it. I think the feeling is a little bit of shame, a little bit, I'm a loser. I've worked with so many INSEADers that they will say, what will happen in my reunion? What will my classmates say? That's a little bit of an ego-driven desire. And I'm not judging that. I have to check with myself as an entrepreneur. I say I have ego-driven desires with the revenue, or we have to check in ourselves, because we are people that we can need validation, but in reality, to be successful with your vision, you cannot be needy. Like in dating, as I said, you cannot go there, because then you're not embodying the vision. You need to feel how you would feel if you had achieved it, with abundance and gratitude. But when you have an ego-driven desire, you don't feel that really. You feel lack. You feel you're missing something. You feel not good enough until you get that. And that's why if you feel you need something to feel worthy, usually you don't get it. Usually you get stuck in lack.
Okay. Could we have another one, and then maybe we can move? Or
yeah, let's have one more question.
Okay, one more. So what is your opinion on comfort versus adventure? I believe that fear in us drives safely hover to feel alive and need adventure. How do you help foster this adventure to the way of visualization?
Yes. First of all, I would say in visualization, you can be as playful or as risky as you want, because that doesn't mean you have to do it. Like right now, I'm creating my vision board because I want to share it next week on the program. I'm having a helipad there and a helicopter, right? So I'm thinking big here. I'm envisioning that I will have a mountain house in Greece and I will be visiting it with my helicopter. That's the thing. So that makes me feel excited. So it will go in my vision board. It doesn't mean it's realistically, I know anytime soon. I think, but we need both comfort and adventure. I'm not all about adventure. I think you need to manage your nervous system. I think it's very important with the burnout epidemic. So I separate the vision from the action. We do the vision, playful, what will make us feel alive, what will be so exciting. And then we kind of trust. And we let our subconscious notice the opportunities. The action is a different thing. When we want no action and you come to me and you say, I really want to change careers or I want to launch a business, and you have a clear vision, we can be as cautious, take the time as you need to be for your nervous system to support you. I don't want you to be so outside of the comfort zone that you feel in panic mode. For example, if someone tells me I want to launch a business, we say, what are your savings? I don't want you to launch a business if you don't have, I usually advise the clients, if you don't tested the business model, to have at least 2 years of savings. Because I don't want you there being desperate again. Desperation turns clients off and investors off. I want you to have the cushion and be comfortable enough. I can try this for a couple of years and I have the savings to support this, for example. So I think we need to strike a balance, have the adventure and take the calculated risks. And also, I do not believe that the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward, by the way. I think that's a mistake. Because if you see all the rich people, if you see what they do, they minimize the risks. If you see Warren Buffett, for example, the biggest investor in the world, his number one rule, never lose money. Number 2 rule, never forget rule number 1. So what can we learn from the biggest investor in the world? They do everything to minimize the risk. So we do a lot of exercises with my clients, fear setting. If you Google fear setting by Tim Ferriss, what are your fears? How can you avoid what you're afraid happening? If it happens, how can you mitigate it? So when it comes to action, I don't advise you to necessarily take uncalculated risks. We want to do it with the health of our nervous system.
Great, thank you for that. We have several more questions, but maybe we can move on and then we come back to the questions after that, and eventually we will have more.
Yes, I wanted to share a story about personal life as well, because we talked a lot about career, and to land my 4th principle. And it is around, I was on a date in 2015 with my husband, and we asked ourselves, and this is a great question to ask yourself, what would we do if we won the lottery? And what came for us is we would like to live in a tropical island. And we started fantasizing about this, right? Oh, we would wake up and do yoga and swim, and we wouldn't work, and it would be amazing. It's lottery fantasy, right? And we spend time with we had a child at the moment. And then we parked this because obviously it was impossible. I had a job at Google, my INSEAD husband, INSEAD alumni as well. He had another job, we had a child. This was parked in the impossible fantasies, living tropical island thing. And then a year later, I found myself sick in bed. I was pregnant to my 2nd child and I couldn't work, I couldn't parent. And I was watching TED Talks. And then I bumped into a TED Talk that was talking about sabbaticals. And then again, you see, because the vision was there, I noticed that TED Talk and I clicked on it. That's the importance of the vision. Like, it makes you aware of information you would have ignored otherwise. And then I realized, actually, now the timing is not that bad, because I'm about to have a birth of my 2nd child. I will have a maternity leave up to a year. So I went to my husband and I said, what about you quit your job and we move to a tropical island? That's what we did. In 2016, we spent 6 months in Koh Samui, Thailand. And it was everything I had ever imagined. We did the yoga and we did the swimming and and it's been so years later and I'm still so full from that experience because it was so great. And I realized that that's another tip I have for you. I was jealous when I was looking, before I had this experience, jealous when I was looking people doing backpacking or having sabbaticals, noticing what you're jealous of is a great tip to realize what you really want. So what's the lesson here? Focus on what you want, not what you think is possible, because you don't know what is possible. I have so many, like my clients have so many stories. That's how I got my publishing contract, by the way. Again, vision board, I want to publish a book. I thought it was impossible. I didn't have an agent. I wasn't famous. I didn't have 100,000 followers. What happened is an editor from Penguin reached out 2 months after I put it on my vision board. And I know it sounds magic, but this is what happened to me. And they said, we're doing this Penguin Business Expert series. We found an article of you online. Do you want to contribute? And I'm not saying that, oh, let's believe in magic. I'm saying that you don't know what's possible. I didn't even know that a big publisher, the biggest publisher in the world, Penguin, reaches out to non-authors who are not famous and asks them to write a book. Nobody could have told me this was possible, but this didn't stop me from putting it in my vision. And then when it came, because I knew this is what I wanted to do, I had already blocked time in my calendar to write a book. I grabbed the opportunity. I knew, oh yes, this is what I want. So let's take some questions. I know we have 10 minutes. And then I'll do a wrap up.
Okay, there's something linked with, how does money come into this? Like what up to some level, it is need driven, then ego driven. But what about the purpose driven?
Yes, so, I love that question.
Okay.
So when we design what career you want, purpose is there, especially from INSEAD alumni, because we know INSEAD is a very purposeful school, right? Business for the good of the world, business for good, that's our slogan. And I know our generation, and especially the INSEAD crowd, purpose is important, but we know that our role needs to have purpose. So it's a balance when you're doing the vision of purpose and pleasure. Questions about finding your purpose. Who do I want to serve? What problems do I want to solve? The ikigai questions. These are the typical questions we ask to dive, what will give you meaning and purpose, because it's different for every one of us. Some may be passionate helping homeless people. Someone may be passionate helping business owners, right? You find your purpose and you accept your purpose as well. Money is a big thing around your vision, by the way, like having abundance. That's something you can focus. It's a part of the vision. Like we do health, love, play, work. These are the 4 areas according to the Design Your Life from Stanford, but also money, we added in there. So I would say needing money, we need very little money. I think clarifying that in our brains will help us be more desire driven around money. We really needing money, we need very little money. We can survive on very little money. So anything more than that is desire driven. And I think that's the reframe I make, which help us be more desire driven around wealth.
Okay, maybe you have addressed the future question a little bit in what you've said, but how can we safely explore or experiment without what we may desire to be, without yet fully giving up our previous identity and job? How could we almost do it in parallel in a way?
Yeah, so there are many ways. I would say education, taking a course on the new topic will, if you enjoy the course, it means you will enjoy more. Following all the people that are already doing, like even before you reach out to your INSEAD network, which I would recommend, and see who has the life you would like to have and check in with them. Like we are so lucky to have this INSEAD community. That's what I would advise. Reach out to someone who has a hotel, maybe in Africa. I'm sure you'll find someone to start with the INSEAD network and ask them how it is, right? Interviewing, informational interviews, as they taught us at INSEAD, taking a course on the topic, doing a volunteering project. And if it's an entrepreneurial thing you want to do, it could be a side hustle. Caveat on the side hustle, you need to be very careful about work-life balance there, because that was my experience. I started having a coaching business while I still had a full-time job at Google, and it was really exhausting. Mm-hmm. So with side hustle, yes, it helps you deal with all your fears. I'm happy I did it, but I wish I hadn't exhausted myself by trying to have a full-time job and changing at the same time. And if you're doing that, at least don't, I have clients that are trying to do that, try not to try to get promoted at the same time. Try to be really focused. I will be a decent employee in my current job, but most of my energy, I will do what I need to do. I won't go overboard with my current job. I will focus on my change.
Okay. You know, there's a very interesting one, which I like. Thank you. What are your thoughts on fake it until you make it? And how useful is that tool?
This is a controversial one. I think it's not around faking it for me, it's around feeling it and embodying it, right? So it's not around faking you have more experience than you do, but you can feel there's something. It's around grasping this identity of where you want to go. I remember I wrote on my LinkedIn title, I was an executive coach since the first time I went to do a course. I told the world, I took the identity before I felt comfortable or confident as a coach, but I told the world, I'm a business leader at Google and an executive coach. And I told people at Google too. So I owned this identity before I felt confident. But I didn't lie that I had experience more than I had, right? There is a difference in terms of tell the world, own this identity of where you're going and tell the world about it, try to feel it and embody it, start doing it actually. Like most of the things, nobody stops us from coaching people. I was coaching people pro bono. Or if you want to be a chef, start cooking. Like if you want to be a writer, start writing. I started writing articles. I didn't wait for the book deal to come up. I started writing on free platforms. So start doing the thing you want to do. Most in the cases, nobody stops you from doing it, and own this identity. So in that case, yes, the fake it till you make it, but don't lie about your experience.
Thank you for the clarification. What if what you really want is ego driven, like recognitions and acceptance? How do we create a vision when we want that?
It will never be enough. That's the problem. If what you want is ego driven, you will get an ego boost for 5 minutes. And then the needy ego will be still there and you want something more, and you'll never have enough, because that's a need that we need to heal to be happy. And that's the problem. Like, see it on social media, right? If you really need people to like your posts, and people like your posts, but then you're sad about the next day they didn't like your posts. This thing, even if you achieve it, your ego-driven need will not be healed. It's not healed by achievement, because the achievement is never enough to fill that gap. We need to do the inner work and give the validation to ourselves. We were born worthy. Nothing has changed. We don't need external validation to be worthy. We were born worthy. So doing this inner work so we feel whole and full, and then the vision is the cherry, it's the desire, it's the excitement. What will be fun? My helipad thing, that will be really fun for me. That's where you need to come from. I'm already full, I'm already whole, and I'm playing with Play-Doh as kids do. Like, you play with the Play-Doh and you're creating things because it's fun, not because you need the Play-Doh thing. It's fun.
There's a question also around, I think, the notion of, getting that clarity that we need. What are your suggestions on knowing the difference between what you really want and what it is possible, and prioritizing? I tend to focus on too many things, dreaming too big, but then not always bringing things home because the focus gets too dispersed.
Yeah, there's a quote I love about this. They say the reason we don't achieve, I'm paraphrasing here, the reason we don't achieve our goals is not because of obstacles, is by clearer path to a lesser goal. And I love that notion of, like, the whole point. If you see the most successful entrepreneurs, Steve Jobs said, innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. So it's about, an exercise I suggest is writing 20 life goals you have, and then prioritize the top 5. And don't focus on the number 6 to number 20. And that's, again, a Warren Buffett advice. until you have achieved the top 5. That's something you can do. Like, and I did that exercise with an INSEAD alumni client actually, and he said this was the most useful thing from our whole coaching engagement, was actually forcing him to prioritize the 5 goals, because he was saying, I want to change jobs, but I also want to build my brand on LinkedIn. And this was not working because he needed to change jobs immediately. Like, building a brand on LinkedIn will take a couple of years. So we said, park the brand on LinkedIn, focus on changing jobs right now, network. And then once you change jobs, once you click that goal, then focus on building the brand. Like, this type of trade-offs is okay. You can have everything, but not at the same time. Like, we have a full life ahead of us. We can achieve different things at different times.
Super, thank you for that. There's more like a demand from Robert, which says that he would like to take the link to your pathway course, if possible. So maybe we can share that with you, Robert, by email, or if you have another suggestion, Katerina, please.
Yeah, I'll write it down in the path.
Okay. Great.
In the chat.
We are on time, my dear Katerina, and that was extremely insightful, extremely helpful. Thank you for adding the link in the chat. We will resume this webinar here. I am thankful, grateful, Katerina, for all your beautiful insights. We've learned a lot. I've took some notes here to create my own vision. Thank you for being here with us today. Thank you to all the alumni students that registered today and followed our webinar. I wish you all a great afternoon, day, evening, and we will share a follow-up email with you today with the recording and the survey. So please fill that. Thank you so much, Katerina, and
thank you.
Would love to have you back. Thank you.
I have to come back. Thank you all.
Bye, everyone.